So I just got done my very first real estate shoot, and I learned a lot, like a lot of things. And I'm here to share some stuff with you. Also, ironically, this was from my own home. This place here. I live here. Well, at least technically I should live here, and I was planning on living here, but we're selling this place. So, thanks, Mom. F you. Roll the intro. Hey YouTubers, how you doing? I'm Harrison, the face behind this channel, the NewIdeaEveryMonthers, and showrunner of DPI, my passion project, and showrunner behind a lot of things and such. But interestingly, not a professional photographer, like in any way whatsoever. I've never done this before. You'd think by now I've actually done some of that, but no, I haven't. That aside, I feel like with my experience with cameras and filmmaking and storytelling, cinematography and such, I might be qualified to give a few pointers here and there. So here are my top 10 tips and advice that I'm here to give you that I learned shooting my very first real estate gig. Tip number 1, frickin' planning. Planning seems simple enough, and that's because it kind of is one of those duh things, but people fall victim to this a lot of the time, and it's probably due to the fact that planning and life skills like that aren't really related to a specific field or anything. They're just sort of general life skills, and whenever you go down the rabbit hole deep on a particular field of expertise, what you tend to focus on are the technical details so that you learn the tricks of the trade and you're up to scratch with the rest of the industry. What goes out the window a lot of the time are the basics that apply to everything. I certainly fell victim to it myself this time, so no avoiding that here. I'm being honest, candid with you guys. Now before you yell at me and tell me that I'm an idiot who doesn't know what the heck I'm doing then, and I shouldn't be giving advice, just remember that I'm 17 years old and I've never done this before, so give me some slack, guys. Oh, and secondly, this is my own damn home. I don't want to sell this place. My future kind of depended on this. Thanks, Mom. Just had to go for the gold and try to take everything up. If you're not used to the new language, welcome to the NewIdeaEveryMonthers. That does not roll off the tongue very well at all. New idea every month. No, that's not right. The new and improved channel that is the NewIdeaEveryMonthers. Yeehaw. No. Emotional investment aside though, planning, time management, people management, and communication, vital skills that you need for your career in filmmaking if you plan on taking this professional, or photography, or any job actually, most jobs. So really work on those life skills, and I know nobody wants to hear it, but people tend to forget this kind of stuff. Planning was actually one of the reasons that I screwed up my passion project, and I'm still going for it a year later now. Didn't plan well enough, I wasn't a good enough communicator, and because of that, I was behind schedule, and now I have to kind of pick up the pieces to keep going. So I've learned from my mistakes, and hopefully you don't have to as well. For a real estate video or photo shoot in particular though, what planning looks like is talking with your agent in advance, talking with the homeowner, figuring out times of day, the location, the time of the shoot, details about the house, things like that. Something that most agents will do is have an interior decorator come in advance about a day or so before you shoot and have them set up a place to make it look its best. That's not our painting, and that's not our globe or plant interior deck. But make sure that happens, because you don't want to walk into a beautiful master bedroom with that golden hour or morning sunlight flooding through the windows, making the room look absolutely beautiful. You want to buy this immediately. You walk in with your camera ready to go raring, and it just looks like this. I'm going to touch on this later, but time of day is also another super crucial point, because a lot of places, specifically each room, is going to look its best at a different time of day. Obviously, high noon is probably not the right time, but golden hour is probably not the right time either. You kind of just have to figure this out for yourself. Now, I have the advantage of living here, obviously, so I have a pretty good idea of, when the sun's going to come through this room and make it look at its best, but most of the time, you're probably not shooting your own home. To help with that, things like asking your real estate agent or the homeowner to send you pictures of what the place looks like. Better yet is actually to go to the house itself and take reference photos ahead of time so that you can review and figure out, oh, what's the best angle, what's the best lighting to capture this place in. And something really important as well, track the time of day and look at your weather app and see when the sun's going to be in a particular position, because sometimes the window you have to shoot a particular room could be as short as a couple minutes. For example, the living room here, the window I had to shoot that was about 30 minutes. Tip number 2, vertical, vertical, vertical. Somehow I kind of forgot the fact that houses look their best straight, and by that I mean not canted off at an angle or looking straight down at the floor or straight up into the ceiling. The important thing here is shoot good leading lines and good vertical lines. Vertical, vertical, vertical. What does that mean? It means look for your vertical lines. You see the ceiling right there? That is a horizontal line. Now you can use that to sort of line up a shot to be straight, but if you're shooting at an angle like this, hey, that's not so straight anymore. You want to make sure that you're using your rule of thirds grid to line up things like the wall over there, a lamp, or maybe a potted plant, if that's something that you can use to level out your shot to make sure it's not on an angle. If you neglect that, you run the risk of making your photos look unprofessional and giving people an odd perspective. Things are also not going to come across as clearly on your camera's LCD, so you might think it's straight, but take it into Lightroom, blow it up on your laptop or computer monitor, and you'll realize, ooh, that's not good. Super important, don't forget. Number 3, gear. So yes, gear does matter. For this shoot, I rented a Canon 10 to 22mm lens EFS. I shoot on a Canon 90D, and that lens is about a 16 to 35.2mm full frame equivalent. And I also rented a circular polarizer filter, because those are 2 things that I absolutely knew I'd probably need. One thing I didn't think I needed was a tripod, and I guess it just didn't occur to me that using a gimbal might not be reliable enough, but I was thinking more about the video side of things again, so I just thought, hey, I'll wing it, I'll use the gimbal. It's good enough. It's not exactly easy to make a gimbal a tripod, because when you're holding it there, you could, waiting for the timer to go off, your body shifts a little bit, and so does the gimbal, and now your shot's not exactly as you envisioned it when you look through the LCD or viewfinder. Key components here, wide angle lens, that's an absolute necessity for this. The circular polarizer, not quite, but tripod, oh my god. Please get a tripod, bubble leveled, ball head, it doesn't matter. Some kind of bubble level, even if it's one that just slides into your hot shoe, and some sort of tripod that allows you to level it out, get it. If you really want to try to shoot without it, I absolutely do not recommend it. Going handheld, which I did, using a stabilizer or rig, which I did. You can, but don't torture yourself. Just get a tripod and get a bubble level. It will make all the difference in the world. Take my advice. I suffered. Oh, back to the circular polarizer. I got that because reflections. There's a glass cabinet over there. If I were to shoot from the back of this room to show off the expansiveness of this bedroom, I'd probably catch myself in the tripod, in the reflection of that glass cabinet. It happens way more than you think it does, and circular polarizer might just save the day. Tip number 4, camera settings. So for the majority of this project, I shot at an aperture of f4 or lower. Usually it was a lot lower than f4. Since I shoot on a Canon 90D, it's got an APS-C sensor, crop sensor, it's more workable, but in general, you should probably go for something lower than that, or at least try focus stacking. If I'm starting to confuse a lot of people with a terminology and talk that I'm throwing around. Might be a good idea to brush up on some beginner lessons before you do a shoot and get an angry client who will probably not hire you back for another gig. Make friends, not enemies. Since I was kind of in a bit of a pinch and it's my first time and I shot on APS-C, F4 kind of worked. Now, stacking is also going to be super helpful for getting the exposure correct, because sometimes you'll have things like a really bright window and interior house fixtures just aren't going to be bright enough to illuminate some of the darker shadows, like the corner of that shelf right there. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfectly exposed in certain areas, but in general you want to make sure that everything is sort of at an even level. Stacking can help with that if you do multiple exposures, and whether you're stacking or not, shoot in RAW. Not all the time are you going to need to bring down a window all the way so you can see outside of it. Maybe it looks really ugly there, or maybe the bedroom looks better with that bright morning light coming through. Sometimes you want that vibe of Sunday morning brunch, but shooting in RAW will definitely save you on that exposure thing, and not just that, but white balance too, because a lot of the time you're dealing with mixed balance lighting. Now, we got some daylight balance bulbs in here. That desk lamp over there was originally a tungsten bulb, about 3200 Kelvin-ish, and now we replaced it with a 5000 Kelvin LED bulb, so that definitely helps match daylight a lot better. If you're shooting in RAW, it's less of an issue because you can sort of find a neutral middle ground between the daylight and the interior fixtures that looks good and clean and professional, which is what sells a house. On the topic of camera settings, let's move over to the video side of things, where I kind of screwed things up. I made the mistake of thinking I needed that deep depth of field, so I was shooting with an aperture of at least f5.6, but that meant getting proper exposure in darker areas, especially when shooting in slow motion, because you want to keep your shutter double what your frame rate is. I got a lot of really ugly, noisy shots, and it just really wasn't working. And the reason is I kind of neglected to think about the fact that in video, you're moving through a space, which means your focal point is constantly changing. So I'm walking through this room with a gimbal. If I have my focus set to 6 feet in front of me, this cabinet would be in focus. If the door is not in focus, I'm gonna walk towards that door anyway, so it'll come into focus. And that is something to pay attention to as well. If your lens isn't fast enough, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do about it, but things like not having your polarizer filter on if you don't absolutely need it, and opening your lens up as wide as it can go are super helpful. Slow motion is something that I recommend for real estate because it'll help smooth out some of your camera movements, and also it generally gives a bit more of a calming feel. Sometimes that 24p, it doesn't feel right. Now when it comes to focus, you can probably go with autofocus if you're not shooting on a Panasonic. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. Or you can use manual focus and set it to your focal point where you want the viewer's eye to be and move through the shot and take your time as well. Just remember, a well-exposed image is going to look more professional and sell a place way better than a dark, grainy, noisy, underexposed mess with everything in focus. Tip number 5, time of day. Coming back to this subject, golden hour isn't exactly the ideal hour to be shooting a lot of rooms doing real estate photography or video. I'm not saying it's bad, but more often than not, it's not the right choice. Your nice master bedrooms like this place, or a living room like out there, probably look its best during different hours. For me, personally on this shoot, I found that they look best at early morning times, so a little bit after sunrise when the morning sun's risen up a little bit and it looks a little less golden-y, gone to more of that typical daylight balance color. But like I said, you're just gonna have to kind of figure a lot of this stuff out for yourself because every house is unique and it's not gonna apply to everything. Oh yeah, and this place has an east-facing window side, so that's why it looks best at that hour. That's also another thing you should probably coordinate with your real estate agent, which way the windows in the house are facing, or if there's multiple windows, ask, hey, which way is the front door facing, or which way is the master bedroom's window facing, things like that. Lighting is super crucial. Number 6, set dressing. If the homeowner still lives in their place, hey, I'm still here, they probably have a few things out to make their life a little bit more livable in the space, and you don't really want that clutter in your shots. I mean, to give you an idea of what that might be like if somebody just kind of happens to forget and leave their pan out, just imagine you're doing a touring of that house and you're a buyer, and as the agent's taking you around the rooms, they take you to the kitchen, and suddenly a guy in his mid-30s wearing an apron and a chef's hat turns around with a plate full of spaghetti and hands it to you and says, eat up. Just know that that example could have gone in a million different ways worse. Like, deep down in the gutter, no light, sewers, get this video demonetized and taken down, and my channel banned from YouTube bad. But on a more serious note, if the homeowner can help you change out the bulbs, or the real estate agent can help you change out the bulbs in the house, that's something super helpful. I was already talking about mixed balance lighting, and that's kind of difficult to deal with, so try to get as many of the bulbs as you can changed to one singular balance, because a lot of the time there are lamps in the house that may not even match each other. Most houses have more warm lighting, like I already said, that lamp. Some places will even have like a 2500 Kelvin candlelight lamp. And when you have all this kind of stuff put together, it's just an ugly wash, and you don't want that. It's the downsides of having a trained eye. No house is ever gonna look right to you ever again. Like, I swear, my eyes have converted into like a director's monitor now, with inbuilt LUTs. Oh, this doesn't look right. Kelvin balance is off. There's a magenta tint to this fixture. I wonder if I can fix that. Damn it, filmmaking. I hate you so much. Yeah. Does anybody else experience that? Please tell me. I can't be alone here. Aside from that, getting back to the more serious stuff, if you can't get all of the bulbs in a house changed, there's not enough time, then what you can do is, if they're willing to change at least some of the bulbs, make sure that you get all the bulbs in one room, specifically rooms with window or daylight or skylight changed. You don't want to have half of the bulbs in a room be daylight matching the exterior, and then the other half are tungsten, or maybe they're even cooler than daylight. Maybe a 6700 Kelvin chandelier. I don't know. Now, it might be cool, and you might be thinking, oh, that'd be sweet to have some, accent lights of a different color, teal and orange, right? But remember, that's not what you're going for with a real estate shoot, and they may not always be the perfect accent lights. Tip number 7, lighting. To continue with lighting, my advice to you is bring some small lights of your own. I'm not talking giant parabolic softboxes or umbrellas with your strobes or, your COB LEDs. I've got an Aperture 1200D. Don't bring that. HMIs, don't bring that. If you've got HMIs, by the way, what are you doing shooting real estate? Jeez, go move to Maui or Little Corn Island or something. Do something else. What are you doing? This is just like a hobby thing? I mean, that's cool. The lights I'm talking about are small fixtures like an Aperture MC light, Aperture P7C, Aperture P2C or P2T, I think. I forget what the tube lights are actually called. Basically, accent lights of your own. I'm not sponsored by Aperture, I really like the products. Please sponsor me, guys. This is my second professional shoot. I don't even know how much I'm gonna get paid for this. Actually, I do. Actually, we got the email yesterday, so I could pull that up, but I'm not sharing that with you guys. Not yet. Save that for later. Now, why you want to bring accent lights of your own are because a lot of the times the fixtures that you have available to you in the house are not going to reach all the corners. Like, I already used that desk as an example, but those little shelves there are pretty dark, and while they don't necessarily need to be lit, things like if there's only a single lamp in a room, but you feel like there could be some more light in a small pocket where there's maybe an armchair, there's an armchair right here in front of me. It's pretty handy to have those kinds of lights as well. I use my Aperture MC to light up the little dark spots in the image whenever I found any, so it definitely worked wonders for me, and I'm actually using it right now to light up the backdrop. It's very subtle, but I felt like it needed some more life back there. So you could use flash, but that's kind of just a wide general fixture, very broad, and it doesn't light up specific areas as well. It could help combat window light if you're planning to bring down a window, like I said, but accent lights work better. Tip number 8. Angles versus space and motion. I think I made it clear enough already that a real estate video should be clean, professional, crisp, and clear, very smooth, soothing, and calm, aesthetic vibes. I just said vibes. But somehow I feel like somebody is just going to go out there and prove to me, whoever's watching, disprove the fact that Earth does indeed contain intelligent light, and try to use over-stylized Daniel Schiffer style camera movements, going handheld, and do crazy whip hands, spiral zoom transitions. And that's why I feel like I need to give this advice. I know you're probably not that person, but there is a degree to which that is not appropriate, and that degree isn't very much. So no-nos. Pull-out shots, boring panning shots, Daniel Schiffer transition movement shots, handheld, ridiculous transition. This is absolutely the wrong field to use those in. Save those for your music videos. When you're doing your shots, try to make sure that you're keeping in mind the objective of your video. The video is to supplement the listing, to give viewers an idea of what a house looks like so they might be more interested to buy a place. This isn't supposed to be, hey, all about the video and nothing about the house. It's about the house, not the video, or the person behind the video. Smooth, slow, clean edits, no crazy sun flares. You want to make sure that if you're shooting a video, you make it look like a tour of the house. That's sort of the idea of a video. Make it seem like the viewer is walking through the house and make sure it makes sense. Don't go all crazy with your whip hands, because nobody's gonna walk through that doorway and then they're just gonna whip their head left to see the kitchen. Wow, nice kitchen you got there. Huh, nice bathroom you got there. Can I see the den? But something else I said was pullouts and slow panning shots, and I say no to those because those feel very unnatural, and this goes back to the concept of make it look like a tour of the house. You want to make it look like a viewing. Pullouts just feel unnatural because nobody walks through a house in reverse. Hi, thanks for taking me here. Whoa, I didn't see the sofa there. Alright, is it okay I broke that vase? vase. And although panning shots can look sort of like a single perspective, like a person's just taking in the view and admiring the place, it doesn't give a whole lot of visual interest in my opinion, and I would prefer a slow, smooth push in. Now, parallaxes I already sort of said to avoid, but you can add a little bit of parallax in there to sort of highlight a place as if somebody's looking at it and sort of focusing on a certain aspect of the house as they're walking by it. Like if you were to walk into this master bedroom and your eyes were immediately drawn to that painting back there or the bed as you circle around to come see what the desk is like. When you do movements like that, especially push-ins, just walking straight through a house, you get a lot more visual interest because new details are coming into the frame all the time, but like I said, do in slow motion so that it doesn't come at you too fast, and old stuff disappears so that you're not looking at the same thing for too long. If it sounds sort of counterintuitive, there's a reason you do both photo and video. Now, it will be okay to do the rare occasional tilt-up. I already spoke on this at the beginning, but tilt-ups I would try to avoid, especially tilt-downs, unless there's a real specific need for it. Like a spiral staircase in a giant mansion with multiple floors. You want to sort of walk around that staircase and show the balcony railing. You spiral down with the stairs to maybe a nice living room. That could be appropriate, but it's a little on the flashy side. Tilt-ups can be used when showing off maybe a driveway. You're walking towards the driveway of a house and you're tilting up to see the upper floors of the house. That could work. But you gotta decide whether that's appropriate for the shoot or not. For me, the major photography takeaway on the shoot, though, was angles. I already said angles are bad, but like I said, canted angles, tilt-ups, and tilt-downs. Tilted up and down angles, they may make a space look good, and it could be cool to show off maybe a really tall living room from a really short hallway if there's a hallway leading up to that and it has a really low, maybe like 6 or 7 foot ceiling. But the angles that you do want to get on a real estate shoot are on the pan axis. And the reason why you want to do that is sometimes when you shoot flat on at things, straight at a wall like I'm doing right now, you can make a space feel small. If you shoot at an angle, it gives some better leading lines and it gives some depth to it. This is going to be closer to you and this is going to be further from you, and it just gives that sense of perspective. Something that should feel pretty obvious already, but I'll mention it anyways, is hug the walls when you're shooting your photos, and especially during videos, to really give a sense of grandeur to sell the house better. Photos and videos that make a space look big sell better than ones that make it look small. Nobody wants to be living in a 200 square foot apartment with no room to move their legs. This may not be the greatest example of, using an off angle. Yeah, it's not actually a great example. Now, this is what I am talking about. You see this depth? This looks fan-friggin-tastic. Man, why didn't I just shoot the video here? Moving on. So right now I'm going to just throw up a couple examples of shots that I got. Now these are video shots, but this is applicable to photos and videos here. Here's some shots I got of the rooftop, which, yeah, there's a rooftop to this place. Gorgeous. And you'll notice that I framed these with a little bit more skyline than building, and that's because it makes the place feel more open and vibrant and alive. One of the main selling points about this condo might be that, hey, it's a condo and, you're in the heart of downtown Toronto, but it can get a little stuffy here. With all the glass and concrete around, it doesn't feel very alive. Having some greenery, especially a nice rooftop terrace patio there with all those plants, can really bring life and personality to the location. Speaking of the rooftop, it is a gorgeous view from up there. Some of my best childhood memories are on that rooftop. Oh, and this also segues me to the next topic very conveniently. Tip number 9, locations. So just because you're shooting real estate photos or videos for a house or a condo does not mean your job is only to shoot inside the house. Maybe that's all the real estate agent asks for, but it never hurts to get extra shots to really help sell the place. They just may not end up using it, and it's just not that much of your time to get those extra shots that really tie the whole thing together. And even if it is a little bit more work to go out of your way to do those shots, even if you feel it's not necessary, it doesn't hurt. So for example, this place here, we live literally like 2 blocks from the Flatiron building. I'm not even kidding. Like, go out the front of the building, make a left, keep going down the street 2 blocks, boom, Flatiron building. Popular photo spot here in Toronto. Check these out. Boom. Shot on my Sigma 18-35 workhorse lens, what I'm shooting on right now. And I did these a couple days before we did the actual shoot. I planned this out and I shot ahead of time so I could get some really nice shots of the community while it was in good light. And community is also one of those things that really sells a place as well, because people don't just want to know what the place they're moving into looks like, they want to know what the community around's like. I don't want to, move into a mansion if it means I'm in, a shady area where every time I open the front door of my house there's a chance of me getting shanked or shot or driven by and picked up in a car, dumped off in an alleyway somewhere, or a warehouse, where I'm going to be interrogated, told that I've seen too much and we are going to wipe your memories, or reset you if you ever mention any of this to somebody else. Understood, Matt Damon? What if the plan's wrong? I watched The Adjustment Bureau last night. Great movie. I loved it. Now let's look for some more examples in these photos. Pizza downstairs. That's the front entrance to the building right there. Convenience. And maybe pizza's not your speed, so hey, look over here. A McDonald's. Get your morning coffee. Get, a Happy Meal. Get whatever you want. There's a McDonald's and a pizza. You don't even have to walk that far. Oh, maybe let's say you don't like those options. Let's look a little right of them. That's the St. Lawrence Market. I already mentioned it, but hey, like photography? It's the Flatiron Building, and right behind it, that's the CN Tower. So you tell me, is this a good neighborhood? If that doesn't tickle your fancy and tell you, I need to live here, then I don't really know what will. Point is, get shots of the community, get shots of the exterior of a building, get shots that show what a community is like and where a person's gonna live. Make it seem inviting, make it seem convenient, and make it seem alive. You see where I'm going with this stuff? I'm gonna miss this place. It's so good here. Mom! Now, last tip, editing. This is more on the video side of things, so photo doesn't really apply here, but when most people are looking to buy a home, they're not looking to have their ears blasted by rap beats, have their eyes assaulted by film burn transitions, and Michael Bay levels of obnoxious teal and orange. Non-consensually, of course. That is just rude. Going along with what I said previously, choose some calm but not mellow music to pair with your video. Real estate videos are slow-paced by nature. The sequence that you edit in is also very important as well. You want to edit in chronological order even if you didn't shoot that way, because this is supposed to be a virtual tour of the place, essentially. If you don't edit in chronological order, it can be very confusing for the viewer, and people may not understand it or like it, or maybe they'll just be completely disoriented. So go through the house one room at a time, and that's how you should take your edit as well. Now, for white balance, this applies to both photo and video, by the way, try to choose something that makes the place look as clean and white as possible. Now, different white balances might look a little bit more cinematic, quote unquote, but it doesn't really help sell a place that well. It doesn't feel very realistic, and real estate is supposed to be realistic. I'm proud of myself for that one. If you use more warm tones, you run the risk of making the place look kind of grungy and dirty and dodgy. And if you use more cool blue tones in your image and you shift the white balance more to the daylight side of things, then you can make the house look very cold, dead, and uninviting. Plus, it just looks really unprofessional when you don't have things white balanced correctly. Finally, on the editing side of things is sound design. Yeah, sound design, important in a real estate video, could have thought. But it's an aspect that I feel like a lot of people may not think about, and that's because it's just a real estate video. People looking at things, there are no moving things, but the auditory experience of a real estate video can really add something to the environment. Now, looking at my video, for example, I used two major sound effects here. I wanted to make the place feel like it was in that area and that it is in a very bustling, busy community where everything is convenient to access and you're not going to be stranded and alone and never meet anybody at all. So I added some traffic sounds at the beginning to make it feel like it's pretty busy outside, and I had them fade out as I pushed in and walked through the lobby to make it feel like once you step inside, it's not going to be a problem anymore because you're now in your own environment, you're in your home. You're isolated away from all the mess of the traffic noise. And then the second one I used was close to the end on the rooftop. As I walk out through the elevator bank to the rooftop, I started adding in nature sounds, and they sort of fade in as if the birds were already there and you're just sort of walking towards them, and they get louder as you get closer to them. And that was to really help sell the fact that the patio area on the rooftop is alive and it's fresh, and it's a break from all the stale, old, and clinical clean glass, steel, and concrete of downtown Toronto, which is something that people were probably looking for if they're looking to live here in downtown Toronto. Now, I will say that these sound effects were not as subtle as they could be, but the point is that the auditory experience can definitely change the way a viewer perceives a home. Woo! And that's it. I'm done. I'm done sharing everything. Now, it was definitely great to have my very first real estate shoot be my own home. Good experience to get started and, you know, learn tips and tricks and learn all the nitty-gritty things that I needed to. It's definitely a lot less stress because I'm already familiar with everything here, but I would be lying if I didn't say it was tedious and boring as hell. Or that it wasn't going to be my future home where I would start my filmmaking career from. But hey, what can you do when your mother's a selfish, immoral bitch with a victim mentality and health issues? But I am just kind of dumping all that onto you guys, and you don't deserve that. You deserve so much better than that. So let's be a fun, happy, healthy community. And thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you give that like button a little bit of love, and hey, hit the subscribe button if you're not already, and for the heck of it, why don't you turn on all notifications so you don't miss when I post another video you'll love. And I've got a passion project that I gotta get back to, so see ya. Here's the important stuff. You want to try to get stuff on... My dad's listening to recordings of me playing the guitar about a week ago. Not very well, I'll add. When you're not practicing every day, you're getting worse every day. Why do you think I'm doing this? That's not what I wrote. T-bati. Angles versus space... Angles... Hi, I'm over here. Ooh, I'm telling ghost stories at a campfire. Oh no, my Aperture MC died. Oops.